Welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. Right now, very happy to have back on the show Representative Delia Ramirez, a Democrat representing Illinois' 3rd District, serves on the Committee on Homeland Security and Committee on Veterans Affairs. And I got to see her here in New York a little over a week ago in person. First time. It was great to meet you in person at that event and good to see you here.
It was good to be in New York, Dean. I told my husband, he's never been to Central Park, that we are going to go back. And why I'm absolutely obsessed with all the parks in Chicago, Central Park really competes with some of them.
It's a special park, and it is so massive. People don't get it. They visit one part and don't realize it goes from like 57th or 59th all the way into the hundreds. Like, it's huge. So much of Manhattan and the city gets to enjoy it, which is great.
840 acres, my friend. I Googled it.
Oh my God. I know it is. People don't get how big it is. People walk into one area and they don't realize it just keeps going. So it was good to see, right now. And just so it's clear for everyone, we're recording this earlier in the day. So anything can happen on shutdown. There could be a deal reached by the time this airs this evening. We don't know. But what's the latest as of now that you can share?
I mean, Dean, I think the latest is that and I know we say this all the time. There's a government shutdown truly looming this time around, but it feels nearly impossible in this moment for us not to go into shutdown by midnight tonight, unless Dean, 7 Democrats cave, which I am going to be very positive and hopeful that my colleagues in the Senate are going to hold the line. I mean, you and I both know we're living the consequences of Democrats caving back in March right now. And so the idea that Democrats again vote to support the shutdown really of programs that are already happening. I mean, yes, the government itself would not shut down, but healthcare will continue to decimate. Housing services will continue to be cut and truly lose any real leverage we would have to be able to have a spending budget that restores healthcare. So if, in fact, Democrats hold the line in the Senate, that means that Republicans are okay with shutting down by midnight tonight.
And, you touched already on a couple of things, and I wanted to talk to people about what Democrats are fighting for so people understand what's going on. The healthcare subsidies, the ACA being one of the first. What's the real world impact? If and they already cut it, Republicans, not like a deal. The Democrats are trying to reinstate the funding. The Republicans have cut it. So this is going to happen in 2 months for people.
Right,
what can you share about that?
I mean, I think the point is, look, with the big, ugly bill, the billionaire bill that passed, we already know that 15 million Americans are going to be losing their health care next year. With what we see right now and why making sure we restore healthcare and protect ACA is so important is because you're going to see another 4 million people who depend on the ACA to get their healthcare see premium increases effective immediately. And when I say effective immediately, I don't mean like effective tomorrow, but I mean that when they go to open enrollment next month, right? And they're beginning to look at what their premium cost will be for January 1st, they will see that increase in their premiums already showing up on that screen as they're determining how they're going to afford healthcare. Now, I don't hear anyone tell me on the ACA, oh my gosh, my healthcare is so affordable. I love how much I pay. Frankly, people are saying, even with the ACA, in some cases, it feels too expensive. People could expect an increase on average of 20%, and in some cases as high as 35, 40% annually. I mean, Dean, that would mean that some people would probably tell you that they were barely affording their health care, that they are going to be willing to go without it, even despite of the fact of the consequence that would come from it.
Yeah, and that would mean for people, no preventive care, like you're not getting your free checkup, which really could catch things early. And people are going to get care when it gets very acute, which could be too late in certain people's lives, to be blunt. So,
I mean, Dean, 22 million people depend on the ACA for their health care. Just think about that. We're talking about 22 million people seeing on an average increase, a 20% increase in their health care.
It's going to be very, very painful. And I think I'm glad Democrats have leaned into that issue so people will hear that, because still not everyone's going to hear it, but they are going to see their premiums go up and they're going to go, wow, Trump is in office and the Republicans have the Senate and the House, and they're going to hold them responsible. And then hopefully they pay the price in the midterm. But Democrats are still trying to help the people now. It's not like Democrats are going, okay, you're going to suffer and we're just going to let it happen and they're going to own it. because Democrats are compassionate and have empathy. We're trying to save this from happening and prevent this from happening.
I mean, that's right. This is a moment where we've heard across the country from our constituents, from Republicans' constituent, we need Democrats, we need members of Congress who actually represent the people to hold the line, to fight like hell for us. And I have not met one darn constituent, not one, in their districts or our own districts saying, you know, the healthcare system, I think it's like the greatest healthcare system, the fairest healthcare system.
Right.
Actually, it's so good that I want you to cut the system from me. They're actually saying, make it better. The Republicans are saying, we don't give a damn if you live or die. We're willing to cut your health care. We want to make it so hard for you that you have to make a choice between going to the hospital or paying your rent. This is a life or death issue, and Democrats are we have to hold the line. There is no more, maybe next time, maybe next CR, maybe November 21st. This is a moment, Dean, where we have to demonstrate to the American people that we're willing to hold the line for our collective healthcare and our ability to stay alive.
Channel Representative Delia Ramirez. So to shift gears, so, you know, yesterday, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer meet with Trump. Today, this morning, Trump puts out, which is clearly, it's not even pretending to be real. It's fabricated, but it's also even CNN actually put racist video in their headline, which I'm like, what's going on at CNN? They actually say something that honestly, but that you've got Hakeem Jeffries with the video of a sombrero on and a mustache, and Chuck Schumer speaking as if it's Chuck, which is really scary and a big issue because around elections, we're going to see this kind of stuff, saying that Democrats were woke pieces of you know, crap, but he says, you know, curses instead. And a lot of stuff about illegal immigrants, as they call it, instead of calling them undocumented immigrants, but demonizing them, saying they have accents and all this kind of stuff. It is just hardcore racist garbage by the president of the United States sharing online. There's no bottom. What is your reaction to this vileness by this guy?
This is the guy that Christian nationalists call a man of God. These Christian nationalists clearly have never read the Bible. These Christian nationalists clearly don't know who Jesus Christ is. They have a disgusting, despicable bigot as the president of the United States going online using AI deepfakes, putting our leader from the Democratic Party on the House side on a sombrero and a mustache, ridiculing people, swearing on this page, and continuing to demonstrate the moment that we're living in. We have reached fascism. Dean, you've heard me tell you this before. In November and December, we were worried about Democratic backsliding. In January, when we heard him in his inauguration, we were really concerned about the possibility of fascism. We're here, Dean. We have members of Congress who are fearful of voting because of what that would mean back home to them and their families, because of fear of their own safety. We have a president of the United States who uses deepfake AI stuff on his actual official page to bring more fear and to spew despicable bigotry in our country. And the same man talks about, I am the holiest man. I am the one that's bringing peace to this country. I will unify the nation. This is the moment we're living, Dean. And any person that can justify this man in this moment is complicit to the fascism that we're living in this moment.
And speaking of fascism, we saw over the weekend in Chicago, a show of force, armed men walking the streets in mass with masks, sent there by the Trump regime, federal agents. And from what I see, it wasn't like they were in high crime areas. They were doing a show of force in the most popular areas. They're in front of the Trump building. What is your reaction to what was going on and how concerning it is?
I mean, it's clear we know this, right? It's never been about security and safety. Donald Trump doesn't want our communities to be safe. Donald Trump wants to vilify our communities, to create chaos and violence. That is what this president wants. He sent ICE agents in full military gear down Michigan Avenue. Frankly, for those that have never been to Chicago, Michigan Avenue is the wealthiest part of the city of Chicago. It is where all the name brand stores are at. Right. It is filled with tourists from all over the world. And that's where they sent agents. It was a big FU to the city. but more so to the entire country, that he is willing to waste your taxpayer dollars to do a show on the most economically sustainable parts of the city, where basically he was creating chaos on one of the warmest, most beautiful days in Chicago, just to be able to continue to mess with people, mess with citizens, mess with successful cities, because in his mind, I'm the president, I can do whatever the hell I want. People should be really upset because more than anything, you are just moments from a government shutdown. We're moments from losing healthcare coverage for people. And he is taking your taxpayer dollars to vilify communities, to spread fear, to now arrest children and United States citizens because he can do that because he's a president of the United States. There's nothing democratic about what's happening right now. And every single person should be asking themselves, if the president is willing to weaponize the government against cities like Chicago, what is he willing to do to me?
It's a great point. And the normalization of heavily armed people with masks in the streets and the MAGA
occupying cities
yeah.
in the United States of America.
Yep. And you see the MAGA base cheering for it. And Republicans like Nancy Mace saying, I can't wait to see troops in Chicago. It's not about crime. They're not saying I'm concerned about the people of Chicago. It's about control. They really want to, they view us as the enemy. This is
It's always been about control, Dean, and it's always been about vilifying communities and cities that are successful for the sake, right, of their fascist authoritarian agenda, consolidating power to exert fear across the country against anyone who's willing to dissent in this moment. It's as if they decided that our Constitution is no longer a priority to protect. This is treason, front and center, by the President of the United States, and frankly, by the Nancy Maces of the Republican Party.
Representative Delia Ramirez. So I have to get your reaction to this too. I saw in WBEZ, which is the Chicago, Illinois-based media, there was a reporter asking Gregory Bavino, he's the commander of the Trump forces there in Chicago, like, what do you look for in determining who you're going to speak to about immigrants? And he said, we see how they look. He goes, for example, you know, to the guy who's white, like, oh, they don't look like you, right? So he's just openly saying we are racially profiling people in Chicago here. You know, what's the bigger message here? And what's the reaction of the immigrant community and the Latino community in Chicago, knowing that they're just targeting you? You could be born here, live your whole life here, but if you look brown to them, they're coming for you.
Dean, you've probably heard me say this before, but fascism always requires a public enemy. Right now, this president has determined that immigrants, that people that look like they could be immigrants, people that look like me, people that look Latino, although they could be something else, they could be Italian, dark skin, right? But however, that the Supreme Court, the president, and ICE is now saying they can target you, harm you, detain you, send you to Sudan, send you to Salvador because of the color of your skin. Then how is this any different from any dictatorship, right? Of other countries who are targeting people because of what they look like, what they seem to look like. It is disgusting. It is deplorable. It is the same man that has benefited and profited from people that look like me in his hospitality, right? In his hotel industry. And it's to me, for anyone who would say that they are not a racist and justify this, it is true evidence of who they always have been. Now they're willing to do this. But as I've said, fascism requires a public enemy. This moment is people that look like me, that are Latino, that are immigrant. Tomorrow is anyone they deem undesirable or that they deem a threat to fascism. And that white person that perhaps is going to that protest is also who they're going after, because you're seeing that happen already. They're going after anyone who dares to protest the inequalities and the attacks that we're seeing in this country. And we should all be afraid, but also we should all be organizing and seeing the collective solidarity that is required for this moment.
Yeah, I mean, in that video we talked about earlier, Donald Trump in that video is calling all Democrats woke pieces of crap. Like, that's how he views all of us. We're the enemy. Like, if he's doing the fascist playbook, The enemy was undocumented. Now it's morphed into anyone who oppose them. And it's really a very dangerous time. I wanted to talk, before we run out of time here, a few minutes left, the Block the Bombs bill, which you were spearheading. And if you could explain a little bit and how it would work and how the significance of having the Congressional Progressive Caucus endorse it.
Yeah. Well, let me start by saying to you, there are people around our country asking ourselves, how could he still be president? How has he not been impeached? How is it that it's acceptable to have someone who is spewing violence against his own people in office, who has taken an oath to protect the American people and the Constitution and has violated every single day at least 20 times, still the president? And they're right. We should be impeaching him. He has consolidated power. And the reality, Dean, is that our democracy has been fragile. The fact that this man could do what he is doing, spewing the kind of hate, the fear, the death, the shootings that we're seeing that seem to go unaccountable, demonstrate to us how fragile our democracy is, and we have to do something. Then you couple it with the fact that this man is close and friends and practically a brother to the extremists that we see in Israel in Bibi Netanyahu, and that they're both an extremist duo that refuse to be accountable. Block the Bombs is a bill, first of all, and not a resolution. It is a bill that basically says, Congress, you must assert your congressional oversight. You must withhold these weapons from Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu that have proven to be used to violate international law and US law and have killed, with your taxpayer dollars, children and women in Gaza. So the bill blocks the sending of these bombs to Israel. And if in fact Israel wants to use these bombs, the onus is on Israel to demonstrate to Congress the defined purpose in which they will use these weapons, at which point then we would need a joint resolution passed in Congress in order for these bombs to be released, these articles to be released.
Right.
It is the strongest form just yet in showing accountability to what we see is happening in Gaza and in the West Bank. And it is a bill that absolutely needs to come before the committee as soon as possible, if in fact we in any way agree that what Bibi Netanyahu and the Israeli government is doing is unacceptable. And so it's an important bill. Look, the final sentence I would say to you, for anyone that says that they want to see peace in the region, you and I both know we can't bomb ourselves to peace. This is why this bill is so incredibly important. And frankly, Dean, it's the least we could be doing in a time of genocide. What is happening in Gaza is a genocide, and we are complicit if we do nothing about it. We've known that we needed a ceasefire, that Bibi Netanyahu is out of control, that Donald Trump is out of control, and this bill is the first step of accountability and saving of lives in Gaza.
And does it have a chance of passing or at least getting a vote?
Look, I would say to you that most people would say to me, oh, a great messaging bill. But no, this can't be a messaging bill. The intent is to get this bill before the jurisdiction, before the Committee of Jurisdiction, which is Armed Services. It is why it is so important that Sarah Jacobs is the co-lead of this bill, who serves in that committee. And I would tell you, Dean, that since the last time I talked to you, now we have 54 members of Congress on this bill with me. That is pretty substantial. That is, it is a quarter of the Democratic caucus, and we will continue to work on getting more members of Congress on the bill. And we should all be calling for this bill to come before committee.
And by the way, the New York Times had a poll today on Trump, but buried in it was views on Israel and the Middle East. Only 39% of Americans support providing additional economic or military support to Israel right now under Netanyahu. 39% of Americans, that's it. And
that's Republican and Democrat, right?
Right, that's it.
39%.
I mean, of all Americans, of course, Democrats or independents are overwhelmingly against it. Republicans still on support of it. And very last thing, you were back in your district. I just saw you at a big town hall. Any issues we're missing that we covered a lot? Any issues we're missing that people are raising that we should be talking about more? I mean, we didn't talk about the economy, so that might be it. But anything else?
Yeah. I mean, certainly the economy keeps coming up. What's happening in Gaza will continue to come up in every single town hall. Healthcare came up repeatedly. But frankly, Dean, you know what I heard over and over? Constituents telling me I'm afraid of leaving my home. And these constituents were also white. These constituents were citizens. I am afraid of what will happen to me. in the country where I believe that I had freedom of speech. I believe that my government would protect me. And now the government is who I'm most afraid of. It is hard, Dean, to look at your constituents in the face and tell them that we're going to be okay when they are seeing the president of the United States declaring a war against American cities. And hearing the outcry from my constituents who are asking me, what will you do to keep me safe? What will you do to protect me? And why hasn't this president been impeached? It's really difficult to respond, right? When you see our democracy in such a fragile state, and Congress, who should be exerting its authority to protect the people as an equal branch, literally roll over and give its power to this president, and a Supreme Court that is far more interested in protecting its loyalty to the president than actually exerting its responsibility as a Supreme Court. To me, that has been what's been most difficult to watch. People living in fear because of its government.
I appreciate you sharing it, and it's important that people hear that. Well, Representative Ramirez, thank you so much for making time. Keep up the good fight. You're a fighter, and we need more. We have to clone you. We need more Representative Ramirez's in Congress. I look forward to chat with you in the future.
Thank you, Dean. Appreciate